Hey gorgeous souls, hope you're having a great day and jumping in with today's live video. I had a couple of questions come up the other day after writing about my super sensitivity post in terms of, are you an empath, or do you feel that you feel other people's feelings or take on perhaps other people's feelings? And how do you know when you're actually doing this? I know that I was like 23 years old before I actually even realized that there was such a thing, that I was actually in fact feeling what other people were feeling, and that wasn't necessarily mine. Now, I want to break down a couple of other myths around this as well, because this is one of the other questions that I got was, how does this reflect, or how is it that we're attracting this experience into our life in a way where this actually becomes a reflection? So when this is showing up in our life, or somebody that's experiencing something is showing up in our life, how is it a reflection of ourselves? So I'll dive into that and answer that question as well, because both of these things are really, really important, and can often derail us a lot emotionally. And unless you actually A, understand this, and B, know what to do with it, you can feel really emotionally turbulent, meaning that you can kind of walk into any particular situation and end up feeling really overwhelmed by what's going on. You may feel emotionally derailed, you may feel completely out of control emotionally, or feel an inability to be able to regulate your own emotions. And there's nothing more frustrating, certainly in my own experience, since I do understand so much more about emotions now. One point in my life I was just like, well, you just feel the way you feel, you can't control it, like you can't change it, like I just feel the way I feel. And I felt completely powerless around my own emotions, and also not realizing that some of what I was feeling was also not mine. And so these things can end up making us feel like a sense of powerlessness, or a sense of just not actually wanting to be around people as well, like with finding yourself withdrawing because you don't know how to manage the energy. Hey Kim, great to have you on, Dylan. Which is really, it is really, really challenging. And I certainly know navigating my own pathway and finding out more about myself, certainly as a sensitive empath, that feels a lot of things, and is quite intuitively, and experiences lots of things like that. Hey Faith, great to have you on. Really, it can be difficult to navigate in the world, and one of the first things that I do want to mention around this, hey Deb, great to have you on as well, honey, is that if you are not centering and grounding yourself on a daily basis, and if you haven't got the tools or the skills to know how to shift and change your emotions, that is an absolute imperative skill for a sensitive empath. Because what happens when we're taking on, or we feel overwhelmed by other people's emotional states, and I will get to how you identify that in a second, but when you're actually doing that, it can often leave the body feeling quite triggered. You can feel like your nervous system feels very, very stimulated, or a little bit overwrought, or kind of adrenalized in some way, shape or form. You might be living in a constant state of fight, flight, and again, that's going to have you feeling burnt out very, very quickly, adrenal exhaustion, chronic fatigue, inflammation in the body from way too much cortisol going on from the stress response, not to mention digestion issues or brain fog, like a whole host of other things. And when we get to that state of feeling really overwhelmed, or feeling like, oh my gosh, just feeling hypersensitive literally in the world, we often become very, very ungrounded in the root chakra. And what happens then is the solar plexus and the sacral chakras blow open even more, meaning we take on even more of other people's stuff. And it can sometimes feel very difficult if you've been a sensitive empath. Certainly I found this for the longest time, and sometimes I still have some challenges around it, which I'm still continuing to heal, is feeling that there's no boundary. I can't distinguish between where I end and somebody else begins. Now, of course, there's the very physical body, but I'm talking on an energetic sense, meaning I become very enmeshed in somebody else's energy, and it's kind of like you've got two different food colorings, and you're adding them in together, and the water starts to mix, so you can't actually pull out or distinguish what's mine and what's somebody else's. Now, on an energetic sense, that does happen in every relationship or every, meeting of somebody, is the two auric fields come together. If for some reason you feel repelled on some level, or kind of like, oh my gosh, that's just not my vibe, it's again because you're vibrating at very different levels, and that will be to do with your emotional state at that particular time. And so if somebody's vibrating a very high level, somebody's vibrating in a denser emotion or a lower energy emotion, somebody's like this, the other energy's like this, when those two energies come together. And this is when we're very empathic, we can feel literally what somebody is feeling, and we will tend to regulate our nervous system, regulate our emotional state to drop into rapport with that person, meaning that we will drop our emotional frequency and this person may raise their frequency slightly. So now we're entraining each other's energy field. That's essentially what's going on, and that's why it doesn't feel good if you're listening to super high energy music when you're feeling in a lower energy state. Again, it's everything's vibration, or when you're meeting somebody. Now, how do you know when? So grounding yourself is really important. I just wanted to make that note, because when the root chakra then is grounded properly, then the solar plexus and the sacral chakra close off, or not close off, but you can contain yourself. You feel like there's a greater boundary, and have a better ability of knowing who you are, or what is yours and what somebody else's. So ground yourself first, definitely. And the second thing is then asking yourself the question, is this mine? Is what I'm feeling right now, is this mine? Another way that you can do this is also through muscle testing. So muscle testing is a great way. I use this way. I'm a trained kinesiologist, and that literally took me about 12 months to develop it to a point where I really felt like I could trust it. There's no way I could, I feel so awkward doing it with this hand. But another simple way is just the ring lock test. So this is a strong yes. So this is yes, and that's no. And so you can play with this yourself and just ask yourself, show me a yes and show me a no. And you will find that generally an unlock is no, or like where the muscle cannot hold. Whereas when it's a yes, it's like I can pull as hard as I possibly can and it will not come away. So you use that as a way of distinguishing a yes and a no answer. Again, you cannot get your head in this. If you're emotionally invested, or if you're invested in any degree from a place of moral superiority, like, no, that's totally their stuff, then you will not get an accurate answer with this. The mind can absolutely interfere with your muscle testing. That's why you can't be invested. So if you feel like you're invested in the outcome or in the answer, meaning you want it to be a specific answer, it messes with your sense of significance or your sense of identity, if it's something other than what you're wanting to hear it, you won't get an accurate answer. So it's really important maybe just to check in with a friend and say, hey, can you just muscle test how much of this is mine and how much of this is somebody else's? And how you do that, I just use a percentage. It's like, is that 5% mine? Is it 10% mine? Is it 20% mine? Is it 30% mine? Is it 20%? Is it 25%? Is it 26%? Okay, so it's 25%. So that's because it's a yes, yes, yes on those ones, and then it was a no for the 30%. So that tells me that 25% of what I'm feeling is mine and 75% is somebody else's. Now, again, like anything, we cannot attract that experience into our life. This is where the reflection comes in. We cannot attract into our life something that we do not have resonance with on some level. This is why everything is always a reflection on some level, not always a complete reflection, but on some level you could not have attracted that into your life if there wasn't a level of resonance within you. Meaning, if you're attracting into your life, or you're feeling like somebody's in a state of total despair or sense of powerlessness, or perhaps they're in victim mentality, then that's where getting the percent, 5%, 10%, I'm 25%, that's mine, and I'm playing the victim. Even if it's in that situation, you're feeling powerless to change the situation with this person that you're now in communication with, perhaps. So again, it's looking for the reflection, and whatever you believe about them, whatever you're projecting onto them, turn it around and and into a statement about yourself. And that is how, when I sit with that from a very humble place, I can always, 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 every time find the reflection within myself. And so it might be like, well, they shouldn't be so negative. And then it's like, oh, well, I shouldn't be so negative. I can see I'm being negative about them being negative. So again, there's always a reflection on some level, particularly if you're immensely triggered by something or someone. Again, there will be that reflection in there, because even if you believe that you don't do that behavior, you may be doing it in response to that person, but sometimes we have a blind spot around being able to see that. Or it may be a part of yourself that you have totally rejected and judged as absolutely wrong. And so there is a huge difference between that and like rejecting something about ourselves, as opposed to accepting that, yes, we have that aspect in us, but we choose not to, have that behavior or that energy play out in a particular way. So, for example, it might be, well, they shouldn't be angry, or they're showing up and they're like really, really angry. And you might be like, no, well, I'm not an angry person. It may be that vocally you're not angry, but you may have really angry thoughts in your own mind, or you might suppress your anger, meaning you push it down. So you're saying you're not an angry person, but underneath there's all these built up feelings of anger, or you've made being angry really wrong, because you used to get sent to your room for it as a kid, so you were taught that anger was wrong and that you would be judged for it, or you would lose love or approval for it. So these are all the ways that unconsciously and sometimes consciously we can be projecting onto others, but how others, when they're showing up in our life, when we feel triggered by a situation, or when we've like, oh my gosh, I'm taking on this energy, do the turnaround. Whatever it is that you're believing or thinking about that person or that situation, turn it around on yourself. That will be so powerful for you and really helps us. Hey Dee, great to have you on, honey. Will really help you come back to your own center, and also help you to feel more like yourself again. Now, one of the other ways, absolutely, Dylan, and yes, you will definitely want to jump back to the start as well. One of the other ways that you can actually identify or become more conscious of where you take in and you amplify other people's energy is through human design. I love this tool for a way of understanding where I am more open in my energy field or in my chakra system, and where I take in and I amplify energy from others as well, because that can be really, really powerful to understand that. And again, you can ask yourself, is this mine? And if you're used to tuning in, or you're used to listening to yourself, then again, you're going to, and sometimes I used to just, I wouldn't muscle test, I would literally just ask to be given a number or a percentage of what percent was mine and what was somebody else's. And the final key to all of this is just remembering that whatever it is that you're experiencing, experience it like the wind passing through the screen door. You are the screen door, you are not the wind. When we over-identify with emotions, meaning we attach them to our identity by I am angry, I am sad, I am anxious, I am depressed, now you're attaching it to your identity and you're believing that you are the wind, not that you're just experiencing the wind in that moment. Our emotions are so changeable, but when we believe that we are that, then we attach it, and then that emotion becomes even stickier to our situation or to our circumstance or to how we're feeling on a day-to-day basis, because you're literally hypnotizing your body to feel that way. So when you say I am angry, you're literally telling the body, yes, I am angry, and that will attract more and more thoughts. By law of attraction, by law of reflection, life will start to reflect back to you all the reasons why you're angry and give you more reasons to be angry, because remember that we're always attracting from our emotional state, meaning we will attract more and more experiences of what is equal to our own emotional vibration. So if you're living in frustration, you will attract more and more experiences in your life that feel like frustration. If you're feeling annoyed or anxious, you're going to attract more situations that annoy you or irritate you or that make you feel anxious or fearful. This is why being a master of your own emotions is absolutely the key to setting you free, feeling happier and healthier more of the time, because your body's not now living in that stress response, but also being a divine creator, being the creator of your own reality by the emotional set point that you choose as your habitual emotional feelings on a day-to-day level. And that is the most powerful gift that we can ever give ourselves and give everyone else around us. And as always, we're human. We sometimes get a little bit hooked or a little bit caught by what other people are thinking or feeling, or how they're reacting, or what's going on, or by our current reality when something shows up. But again, it is feedback to let you know that there is something inside of you that has attracted that experience, that has attracted that circumstance, either through your own emotional state. And this is why it tends to be, I'm not saying that it's fun when this is happening, but the worse it gets, unless you know how to change your emotional state. And of course, the opposite is also true, that the better it gets, because you're feeling happier, you're feeling great, you feel like things are working out for you, things are going well for you. And at any point in time, we're either in a downward spiral or we're in an upward spiral, moving upwards in our own emotional state. So it's really, really important when you notice that you're in that downward spiral to pull it up as fast as you can, to have that emotional mastery. And it's exactly one of the key things that I always teach my clients. I give them very important skills and tools in how to start to shift and change this. And again, our most important factor of all of this, all of your relationships will be a reflection of this. Everything you attract in life will be a reflection of, first and foremost, the relationship that you have with yourself. So if you are loving yourself, if you are appreciating yourself, if you value who you are, if you know that you are a divine creator, if you know that you're a powerful, magnificent, lovable being, then you will attract magnificent things into your life, and everything will be a reflection of that. If you're judging yourself, if you're making yourself wrong, if you're beating yourself up, if you feel like you're not enough, and we all feel those things at times as human beings. Like, I'm not making any of that wrong. There's no judgment around it. But often there are aspects of our ego mind that will be judging those things. And so now we have parts of ourselves fighting each other. And now we've got inner conflicts going on. Now we've got more emotion building. So you can see how this really plays out sometimes in a really big level. And then we attract somebody into our life to reflect to us perhaps how we're actually feeling about ourselves by how they show up or by what they say. And again, we will blame the other person or blame that situation for making us feel a particular way, unless you turn it back internally and understand how you've attracted that, how you've brought that into your life by how you were feeling first and foremost about yourself, or some unconscious beliefs maybe that are playing out there. So have an amazing day. I truly hope that that has served and has been helpful for you. And this is why everything in our life is truly a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, because our life is mind projected upon the world, and we all see life through our own filters, our own belief systems, and what we're making things mean by the story that we choose to tell. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.